Hello, and welcome to whatever this is. It is me, your host, Kyle, joined by my lovely friend here, Ryan.
I think it's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
I have to be nice, and because if not, everyone will know I hate you. So this is a bi-weekly audio show thing that we're going to do that involves us talking into microphones about the last 2 weeks of our lives. And then we're going to discuss something.
Okay, so we do a bunch of videos, and we have all this fancy equipment to do the video stuff.
That we don't know how to use.
We're learning. You're learning.
I have a degree in this, and I don't even know what I'm doing.
Let's be honest, how long have you been fiddling with this stuff before we just got started?
Like 30 minutes.
30 minutes?
Maybe. It's
supposed to be like an hour. Anyway, podcasts, we like talking to each other, and we talk to each other all the time, so we figure we might as well do it into microphones and record it.
Most people tell us we're pretty funny because we don't like each other, and we make fun of each other all the time.
I like you. I never said that I didn't like you.
Oh.
I only don't like you when you don't like me.
I never like you, though. So.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is every 2 weeks or so, we're going to record an episode, and then we're going to give our listening audience, which is nobody at this point, a task or what do you want to call it?
I mean, I don't want to call it an assignment. Whatever. You and I are going to be...
Assignment. I like assignment.
Yeah, but I mean, it's an assignment for us.
This is going to be like an online book club, but instead of books, it's media.
It's just shit that Kyle and I want to talk about, and you're welcome to join us.
Yes.
That's really all it is. We're not going to keep up with like current trends unless we want to.
Right.
I'm not going to we're going to run out and talk about this thing that everybody's talking. Yeah, Game of Thrones season finale.
We're not worried about what's hot and what's new. We're going to talk about...
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it is.
It's nerd culture. We're going to talk about nerd culture.
Or whatever we can get done in 2 weeks. We'll try to have a topic. We won't try. We will succeed in having a pre-designated topic. So if folks at home are listening and do want to, kind of be a part of the conversation, they have time to like read or watch or whatever to keep up with it. But I mean, Kyle and I watch and read our own things. We have our own lives, and we have lots of conversations about different things. We're going to talk about that stuff too. So
basically, this is born out of the Bomb After Reading, where they read Sphere and watched Sphere, and it got me to want to then read the book and watch the movie too, and then listen to someone talk about it for 4 hours, which was super entertaining.
Yeah.
So we invite you to. At one point, we're going to let you know what we're going to cover in 2 weeks from now, and then you have time to go out and either watch that movie or read that book or read that comic or play that game.
Yeah.
And then join us in a fun conversation about it.
And sometimes it'll be related to whatever video project we're working on, and sometimes it'll be completely unrelated. It's just kind of whatever we're in the mood to do.
Yes.
So.
But first, before we get to the assignment, what have you been up to?
We don't have an assignment yet. I don't.
Well, we know what we're talking about today.
Yeah, we'll talk today. We know what we're talking about.
But generally, we're gonna catch up on the last 2 weeks of our lives, since we try not to talk to each other too much, since we never see each other anymore.
Yeah.
We both work a lot.
Well, we get most of our. And bonding.
What do you do for a living, Ryan?
I manage a comic book store.
Yes.
So I have comic book store stories.
And what do I do for a living?
And you.
I do IT.
You do IT.
I do IT for a living. That's what
You're
I do.
The IT guy.
I'm not going to say where, but I do IT. I'm a tier...
Black Mesa.
Yeah, well, actually, no, I don't wish. I was going to say that'd be pretty cool, but no.
Area 51.
Anyways, I have plenty of things that have happened to me in the last week or two. What's happened to you?
Busy fucking
okay, let me start.
Video projects
Let me read you this email real fast.
Right.
This is a funny one that happened to me that I thought was great. So, I got this email from a coworker. They was asking for help. Starts out with, "Hey Kyle, sorry to bother you. My computers aren't working and the main one's turned on, yada yada. It stays on the loading screen. It doesn't go anywhere. Never loads up." So I sent her an email the next day. "Hey, is it any better now?" I get a reply, "You are a miracle worker. I was hoping they would work because I had this big thing going on this morning." Do you want to know what I did?
You turned it off and
I didn't go there. Oh. I never even did anything. It's on another site from where I'm at. I literally did not go there. I was emailing her to know that I could see from where I was at that it seemed to be working. So I was like, well, let me double check to see before I go out there. What's the issue? She thought I went and fixed it. That's pretty amazing.
There's another scenario. There's might be a Fight Club thing going on where you actually did fix it and you just have no idea that you did.
No, but that's a very much representative of my job sometimes of okay, I'll get to it.
Yeah, you're a typical hateful IT person that fucking hates everybody because you're a hateful IT guy.
Pretty much. No, I mean, I don't hate everybody. It's just, I don't. I really don't. Actually, it's one of the few times in I hate everybody, but I sit back and I'm empathetic to the point where I go, okay, look, I know. Why would you know? You're not me. You're not an IT person. Why would you know? But it's just funny how things fix themselves sometimes when, you know.
I think doctors probably feel that way, right? Like somebody's like, oh, I've got this thing, right? And you just know that they're going to forget about it like a week or whatever. Or you give them sugar pills or some shit.
Yeah, give them a placebo.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's, you know.
So it's kind of like they're hypochondriacs for technology.
Some of them, they tell me, like, they're afraid if they push the button, everything's going to explode. Like, the ghost is going to be released from the machine.
Well, there is a button. There's, like...
Lots of buttons.
The ejector button, right?
Yeah. I mean, you were this bad at one point, so...
Oh, I'm not anymore?
You've gotten better.
That's good.
Anyway, so, what have you been up to? What's happened in your life that's been interesting to talk about? What have you read? What have you played?
I didn't
done?
I didn't take any notes on my life. What have I been doing? I watched Evil Dead. The remake.
Which you got from me.
I did. I did that because... Why did I do that? I did that because... I can't remember whether you talked to me about it first or whether somebody at work talked to me about it first, but...
I told you it was really good.
Somebody at work, one of my customers, was involved in that movie, I think in a marketing capacity, and him and I were talking about a lot of movie stuff, and he said that, like, he was actually proud of that movie. They did pretty good. And so after enough people said... I really didn't want to watch that movie because what I love about Evil Dead is that it's goofy and it's funny. And like at least Evil Dead 2 anyway is sort of like this great fusion of comedy and horror. And that movie looked so serious. It just looked really, really...
Well, it's hard to make a movie when you know you're trying to be goofy versus the one it just came out that way. The original.
No, I think it was intentionally campy, or at least the second one was.
Yes, but like in a weird way that's just not like you would see nowadays where it's planned to be that way.
Yeah.
Like the audience knows what to expect. When the story of Evil Dead 2 is I went with my girlfriend to Blockbuster and we were looking for horror movies and we were like, this looks really good. Too bad we haven't seen the first one. Whatever, we'll be fine. And then it's like you start watching and you go, what the fuck is this? This is amazing. Like, what? I thought this was a real horror movie, and then it's just like totally off the fucking wall.
It is a real horror movie. Yeah, no, it's good. It's really slick. It looks really pretty.
And that blood rain.
Shot well. It's the whole thing. I think was done on a stage. I don't know if you knew that about it or not.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That wasn't done outside. There were people buried in dirt.
Yeah, but it was beautiful. Like the actual set design was really, really, really well done.
Yeah.
And all the gore effects and stuff were pretty great.
The nail gun scene was great.
The nail gun stuff was good. It was fun. It's like, I don't know. It was, I feel like the cast, there was just some stuff that was a little mixed up. Like, and if it had been like smoothed out, it could have been a little bit better. Some of the cast, I don't think they knew what kind of movie they were in.
Whatever, you're boring me.
You
saw Evil Dead and you liked it. You didn't like it as much as me, but you liked it.
Yeah, I liked it fine.
Sorry, you just going into a lot of boring detail about the movie.
I am interesting as fuck. I don't know what you're talking about. Everything I have to say is interesting.
So you saw Evil Dead. You didn't watch Legendary Weapons of China.
No, you gave me 15 million movies. I haven't watched them all. Shit, what else did I watch? We already talked about everything that I watched. I watched Automata. We already talked about that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen anything since then. I've been...
You went and saw Spy.
Yeah, but you...
Current events, right?
It's a good movie. Go see that probably instead of Jurassic World.
Don't see either one.
Huh?
Just stay home and watch...
you should really go out and see Mad Max a second or third time.
Yeah, or a fifth time, yeah.
No, I don't know.
Did you read any comics?
I've been reading EC stuff, which you don't know anything about. I'm not going to give a huge history. Tales from the Crypt. They just started reprinting that stuff, and I've not really sat down and read it from beginning to end, so I've started reading that stuff. And
after doing all the Hellraiser stuff, got you back into reading some horror?
A little bit, yeah. And I've been talking about it in the videos and stuff. I know a lot about it, and I've read some stuff, but I haven't read it like comprehensively, so I've been trying to read that. I don't read shit. Customers that come into the store and they go like, oh, how is this book and how is that book? And I work in a comic book store and I haven't read anything. I just don't have time. I work too much.
Right. I mean, it's the same thing when I used to work at GameStop. He's like, oh, you don't play every game in the store? It's like, who do you think I am? I mean, I don't have that much. Plus, I'm making minimum wage, so how do I buy all this stuff?
Yeah. It's just, I'd like to keep up with it, but I don't know. I guess I'm more interested in going back and like reading stuff that's already done. Oh, I read a really, really good book called The Hero, which is a retelling of the Hercules story. And I showed you some pictures.
It's like super sexual, right?
It's really sexual, but it's super everything. It's super violent. It's super sexual. It's really cool. It's like a really modern retelling. It's this artist named David Rubin, Spanish guy. That was fucking rad. I hadn't sat down to read anything from beginning to end graphic novel in a while, but that was totally worth it.
So you've been reading Tales from the Crypt and you like it?
Yeah. So you've kind of already read Tales from the Crypt, even though you haven't.
Because I watched the show years ago?
That too, but you've also, like, you're big fans of movies like Creepshow.
Yeah, Creepshow's good.
Which Creepshow doesn't exist without Tales from the Crypt. A lot of things don't exist without Tales from the Crypt. When I see EC, basically that's Tales from the Crypt is the most famous thing, but like there's a whole bunch of books. There's like Vault of Horror and fucking Two-Fisted Tales, which is like war books and shit.
Two-Fisted Tales.
They went shock suspense stories. They didn't just do horror stuff. They did like crime, like really hardcore crime stuff, and they did even stuff just like the Ku Klux Klan and things like that. Just like anything that could really like get your attention. But they really set themselves apart from other books because the fucking people were motivated by sex and revenge and jealousy, and
they're more adult.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is why the show was on HBO.
I mean, without going into like a huge history lesson, basically you had GIs in World War II that got shipped comics. Like you had a whole generation that reading comics across the sea over in Europe, and when they came back, like they wanted to keep reading comics, but they didn't want to keep reading like kiddie shit.
Archie.
Yeah, they wanted, so the taste of soldiers, kind of reflected what EC was doing.
Did they want to play a game of Russian roulette for an Italian pistol?
I guarantee there's at least probably one Russian roulette story in there yet, but I just haven't gotten to it yet. Let's see. So far, they're all like, a lot of them are like big twists and stuff like that. I just read one where it's kind of, the beginning's kind of fucking dumb. First of all, it's two dudes just traveling around Europe, right? It's not like, you weren't allowed. You didn't have a gay couple in a fucking comic book until like last week. I mean, obviously not last week, but they're like, okay, so they're traveling around Europe, and
are they actually like gay, or are they?
No, I mean they couldn't. I mean maybe.
Or, okay, that would never
be like. That would be the kind of thing that would be like subversive. Like they would have had to just like.
I didn't know if you meant they were fruity or it was just like hostile.
I just think it's funny.
Okay.
Like, because you have to straight face it and be like, no, it's just two dudes. It's just two dudes traveling around Europe together. But why are two dudes traveling around Europe together?
I don't know. They do that stuff nowadays, don't they?
You want to go take a trip?
I don't. Fuck no. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I'm gonna stay home.
Anyway, they're like in Hungary or something, and one of them like pricks their hand in a bush, and it turns out the bush is wolf's bane, and so he thinks that he has turned into a werewolf, and that's because people keep getting murdered wherever they're staying. That's the dumb part. But then as the story gets to the end, he's like freaking out, and he's like, "Oh, it's a full moon," and he goes to his friend who is traveling around Europe. And he was like a psychologist or some shit, and he goes, "You need to help me. I'm a fucking werewolf. I'm telling you. And like, here's all the evidence. Like everywhere we went, that dog died, and I had blood stained on my coat and all this shit." And the guy's like, "Yeah, you're right. Or somebody could have planted that coat. Somebody that was close to you that entire time." So basically, it's his friend is a serial killer, and he's just been convinced his friend that he's a werewolf.
You made it seem like it's gonna be those things where he's been cutting his clothes shorter, so he thinks he's growing, but he's a fucking serial killer.
No, he's actually a fucking serial killer, and so there's no nothing supernatural about it, other than how stupid the guy is for thinking that he was a werewolf, and then he kills his friend. That's it.
What was it? Is he getting off by like torturing him, thinking he's a werewolf before he kills him?
No, he was just like, that's like his. I don't fucking know. He probably didn't even know his fucking friend thought he was a werewolf. You know what I mean? It's like you thought you were a werewolf this whole time.
The serial killer, like he got off on like fucking with his friend before killing him. Is that what you're saying? Or like
that's probably like more thought that should be put into this story. It's like 8 page. That's what I mean. It's like quick little 8 page like.
I always find it amazing when it's 10 pages or something like that. Like how do you tell stories so short?
There's another cool one. I think this one actually got turned into an episode where it's a guy who's a executioner. Like it's his job to flip the switch on the electric chairs. And just like, I don't know, just changing with the times, like people aren't getting executed as often that year. Like, and he's like, this is fucking bullshit. There's no way people aren't doing bad things and people keep getting off. So all these people that are getting acquitted, he's basically executing them like outside, out in the wild. Like he hooks up like electrical things to fences to kill them that way or whatever, like really elaborate shit. And then of course like he gets caught and put to the electric chair and he's like crying and screaming. It's just shit like that. It's very Twilight Zone kind of stuff, but like really trying to shock you, I guess. It for me it's comic book homework. It's like a big classic thing that's kind of missing for me, especially as like a horror fan.
Yeah, you're just filling in old gaps and things like that. Speaking of executioners and prisons, I'm sure the guys from New York broke out have been on the loose for like a week and a half now.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not what I care about. The funny thing is, if you go to like Gawker, there's a story about.
Why would anybody go to Gawker?
I don't know. It's news, sort of news. Anyways, it's been reported in other places too, but it's funny because there is every time one of the guys has a big dick, right? It's been reported that some old...
What?
So some like...
You're saying like everybody knows?
No, so
everybody
like,
knew before he escaped.
So some, I guess, like sheriff or old corrections officer that used to like work there that was around him said he was a womanizer and like he'd been known to like, you know, get women and shit. And then he says he's also really well endowed. So that story got around. So every fucking Gawker article about, which is like 2 a day, about these guys, whenever they reference one of them, it's always like, you know, prisoners escaped traveling with a big dick. Or like, you know, they cut through the saw pipes possibly with his big dick.
You're just going to be suspicious of every big dick you see now.
It's funny how when they refer to him or them, every single article has like alleged big dick prisoner escaping. You know, it's just like, it makes the story funny when it really shouldn't be.
I mean, I don't know. Whether they murder people or something. I don't know anything
the guy's a
about
fucking
it.
horrible person.
Yeah.
He twisted some dude's neck off in the trunk of a car after beating the shit out of him.
The neck off?
He's the accomplice. The reason why he was in jail is because the guy who was driving with him said that he opened the trunk and grabbed the 70-something-year-old guy's head and just twisted it till there was a loud pop. And after he beat the shit out of him and like stabbed him and broke his fingers and like...
He should... Okay.
They drove around for like 21 hours looking for a spot to dump the body.
He's a super villain.
He's bad. They're not like, oh, funny guy escapes from prison.
I was about to say, like, the idea that somebody could like elaborately escape from prison kind of makes me happy.
Right, and then you find out that the guy is actually a
But then, like, in reality, it's terrible.
Yeah, no, he's bad.
No.
And one of them killed a cop or something like that.
Yeah, I don't mean like...
But it's just funny
I don't mean that in a way like, fuck the system. I mean it more in like a, oh, wow, the world still has a ability
I just thought
to
it was
surprise
funny
me.
because if you know that they cut through a like 24-inch diameter pipe and then went to the other side of the wall and they cut their way out. And, of course, you get the comments are like, well, did he use his big dick to cut his way through? Like, anyways. Also, with that, Leonardo DiCaprio on Gawker, whenever there's an article with him, it says, yada, yada, Leonardo DiCaprio, comma, founder...
I thought you were going to say Leonardo DiCaprio.
And Decapitated. DiCaprio is, comma, founder and member of the Pussy Posse, comma, and then article. There's not a time that goes by when they don't mention his name and then go, founder and member of the Pussy Posse.
What's the Pussy Posse?
He bangs hot models all the time.
Oh.
He's well known for that. But it's just funny how it's like you can never not be referred to within that moniker afterwards. It's a Gawker thing. But yeah, big dicks, prisoners, good stuff.
We could just have the whole podcast about that. Like, I know I have a lot of things to say about big dicks and prisoners.
Moving on. So, Tales from the Crypt. Anything else?
No. What the fuck have I
what have
been
you
doing with my
been
time?
doing?
I've been working on this, like getting ready for this podcast.
Oh, the
talking
assignment?
about, like actually researching stuff. No, that's not true. Okay, so but yeah, everything I've been watching really has been for this stuff. I mean, I watched that Birth of the Living Dead documentary.
It's good stuff.
Which was cool. It's a good companion piece to what eventually our video will be. Like, you should put a link in the description when we ever get around to doing that. Birth of the Living Dead is just a pretty cool documentary about the making of Night of the Living Dead.
And just the time period and
everything about it was pretty rad. I appreciated, especially for our project, when they actually started getting into like the kind of creation of that movie, the creation of that genre, and like kind of what he was doing and like what made it special was pretty neat. And it's just really well made, and it's short. A+ for being short.
Yeah, it was like what, an hour and a half?
Less than an hour and a half.
I'm like 40 minutes in.
Nothing's less than an hour and a half anymore. So yeah.
Well, I watched The Substitute finally.
Oh right. So I wanted to watch that because they were talking about it on the Bombcast. We're a big fan of this video game website called GiantBomb.com, and everybody should go there. Even if you don't play the games, you should listen to their podcast.
Yeah, they're
it's really good.
very popular podcast. But Jeff's been talking about the damn Substitute for so long that you just go, God damn it, I have to watch this thing now.
I feel like I have seen it when I was really young.
Right. You've seen movies like it.
Yeah.
Like Dangerous Minds and The Veteran, I think it's the same kind of thing. There's a lot of
I don't know
like...
if it's quite as... Dangerous...
Okay, it's not like Dangerous Minds, but...
Yeah, because like that's the white person comes in to rescue all the black kids.
Okay, so...
But Substitutes, I'm the white guy who's going to come in and fight all of the black kids.
Well, it's Tom Berenger from Platoon.
Yeah.
You know, he's Mr.
Or
Badass.
from Sniper.
Yeah, and all those... was he in Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen?
And he's also in Major League.
Yeah, but either way, you know, he's a badass from those movies, and he comes to be a substitute teacher after the gang member in the classroom breaks his like girlfriend's leg, and she's the teacher.
Okay, wait, back up. Okay.
So you haven't seen it. So
I already have a question. So
I don't want to spoil the whole movie for you, but it's just...
Well, just the setup for it, though, I'm curious. So he's not... Okay. So I always thought it was one of two things. He's either like somebody that has like a past, right?
Oh,
like
yeah,
a military pass or whatever, and he's just trying to get by, and he happens to be a substitute teacher.
The movie starts out with like a failed Castro assassination, and like some of their team gets killed in Cuba, and so the American government has to deny it all. And he goes, "Well, that's our fucking careers, basically." Like him and his team are like, we don't have anything, so now we're mercenaries.
Right.
But he refuses to do like drug running and shit like that. So he goes back to his girlfriend for a while, and like he's been busy doing CIA secret operative shit. And now he's like, and he's with her, but she's at a bad school. And she says something to one of the students, and then he's a big gang leader guy. And someone breaks her leg. And so he gets pissed off and says, like, okay, I'll help take care of you. And then he calls up his buddy and is like, hey, forge me some documents. Make it look like I'm a great substitute teacher, and I'll be the fucking guy to fill in. And then in the process, he gets there and he starts to like the kids. It's...
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's fun. I
really had this idea that it was like... He goes 22 Jump Street, like
he goes in to find who the kid was that was like the gang leadery, like piece of shit, and he wants to like take them out, and he has to convince his mercenary buddies why they should help him.
Does anybody's neck get snapped?
Yes,
see, that's it. Then this is the movie that I think it is because that's fucking hardcore.
Yeah,
he's fucking like it's an action movie, right?
It's really bad action because it's. Like Tom Berenger's old at this point.
Of course, yeah. But I mean it's not usually gets to like these kids. Like
no,
maybe he gets to like one or two of them or something.
No, he's in the classroom and he starts telling about like Nam and World War II. It's the kids start to open up about like, yo, did you kill anybody, Mr. Smith? Like shit like that. And he's like, oh yeah. And he starts talking about biker gangs and shit. So they, of course, these are like all gang kids. So they go, ooh shit, like he was around the Red Dragons or the Black Dragons, whatever the fuck it was. Like that's enticing to them because they want to hear about people getting murdered and shit. And then he tells his girlfriend, he's like, it's weird. I'm connecting with him. She goes, yeah, now you know what it feels like to teach somebody and have them like it. So he kind of falls in love with the kids and wants to help them and shit. But Juan Lacus is the bad guy who's, whatever. It's a great movie.
Is it?
It actually is a really stupidly good movie.
Well, I've got it on my hard drive, so I'll watch it.
It's got a lot of people in it that...
It's like 187. Do you ever see that one? Samuel L. Jackson?
No.
The same thing. Like he's in it. It's more like... Do you ever see the movie Falling Down with Michael Douglas?
No.
Really? You should watch Falling Down.
Really?
We'll do that as one of our things.
I watched Jim Belushi. He did one where he was a substitute teacher, and then like, who was the football player? The old, the fucking big, fuck me. Football player. He was in. He's not Ving Rhames, but James Brown. I want to say James Brown's like the janitor at the school, and Jim Belushi is like the substitute, and they end up like fighting the fucking students in the showers with knives and stuff. It's another one of those like movies, but I love those movies. They're so stupid and great.
It's just like we were so scared to death of classrooms, like they were the most dangerous places in the world, I guess.
Yeah. It's
that's like
the DVD is so good because one side of the DVD is a substitute and the other side is substitute 3, not 2, 3, which doesn't even have Tom Berenger in it. I don't think, and it's a widescreen, but it's a full frame. So when you actually watch it on a widescreen HD TV, it's got black bars on the left and right and black bars on the top and bottom. So it's like a little small screen inside of a big screen.
Get two big pieces of cardboard and put them up against your TV and you'll be good to go.
Well, again, I watched it on my computer where I could like zoom it and then I sped it up because I didn't want to sit there and watch the whole thing.
When something like Substitute gets to 3 entries, is it like, horror?
I think it's got 4.
Okay, even better. They make the joke, like, when a horror franchise gets to a certain number, you're like, oh, it's going to go to space or goes to the hood. Like, do action franchises have that? Is there, like, the basic equivalent, like, once you've gotten to, like, 3 or 4? Like,
I don't think any action franchises have gone more than 4.
Well, Expendables, how many of those
There's
are
there? 3.
There's 3.
Karate Kid's got 4.
Well, Substitute got to 4.
Yeah, it's just like a 90s, 80s, 90s.
I bet you Sniper probably got to 4.
Yeah, Sniper. I remember. It reminds me of your mom and all her DVDs that you traded.
What do you mean
in
it reminds you of my mom?
Remember we had that bag of DVDs you had to trade in one time?
Oh,
I remember I had like Sniper 3 in there, and I was like, "Why does your mom?"
That's
want
pretty
a copy
funny.
of
Should I tell that
3?
story?
No,
I'll tell it another time.
Yeah, it's a really funny. Back in our days.
I'll just say really quick. There's a reason why you can't trade in movies at GameStop anymore.
It's all your fault.
It's all my fault.
That's why they opened up a movie stop, basically.
That's a thing?
I don't know if it's anymore, but it was.
They just called movie stop?
When you brought in your 800 movies,
there's more than 800.
They were like, we can't put these in a store, and so they went back.
I just assumed they wholesaled them to like.
Yeah, they opened up a store called Movie Stop where that's where all the DVDs went to.
That's where the Danielle Steele box sets went.
Jeez, you remember stuff like that.
What else did we do?
Substitute's great.
Substitute's good.
I watched Terminator 3 for the first time.
Did you just skip 1 and 2? Are you going to even watch?
No, I'm gonna watch.
So we're going to watch that.
Obviously, Terminator Genesis is coming out in like 3 weeks or something.
Yeah, and we had a fun time binging Hellraiser and Fast and Furious, so we figured we'd do the Terminator 1 too. And that's not as many movies, so it won't be so bad.
Yeah, we're not gonna do a 3-hour podcast on it.
No,
we're just gonna talk about all the movies, but we're not gonna waste. We're not gonna sit.
You didn't watch 1 and 2. You're not gonna watch them in order. You just skipped to 3.
Oh no, I mean I'll watch them. I wanted to see the one that I hadn't seen and then watch.
You had never seen 3?
Not from beginning to end.
You hadn't seen Rise of the Machines? Is that what it was called?
I had seen enough of it to know that I didn't like it. I wanted to watch 3 and Salvation again, just to catch up, and then I'll go back and watch 1 and 2, just because they're so good. But
I'm really excited to go back and watch, especially 1.
Yeah, I've seen it recently. It's still really good.
It's been a while since I've watched it.
3.
Especially after Jeff calling it, wow, what did he said it's cold murder or something like that.
Yeah, it's better than 2, he says.
Yeah.
But yeah, Terminator 3. That's not my first time having to watch it.
It's been a while since I've seen that one. I remember the fire truck. Yeah. I remember...
I took notes. I took lots of notes.
Who's the main actor? Do you remember his name? He's like hardly in anything anymore.
No.
I know he was in Sin City. It's just the fucking kid in Terminator 2. John Connor as a child or whatever. He's such an asshole. He's such a little brat. Like, he's such a punk kid. Like, when he's being all... fuck authority. When he's all like, fuck you, like to everybody in that movie, you believe it. Like, I believe 100% that if he was a kid in a class, like, the substitute would kill him.
Yeah, I don't want to go into detail because we're going to go into much more detail when we do the Terminator podcast about...
Well, all I was going to say is the actor that plays him older in Terminator 3, he's just so buy that he was ever a bad kid.
One of the many things to talk about with that movie.
Or what did you want to say about it?
I just want to say the first, 45 minutes of it is just like I was taking notes as I was watching it, going like, okay, here's all the shit that really pops out as lame or bad to me, and I noticed the second half of the movie I wasn't taking notes anymore. Like, the second half of the movie is not bad.
Yeah.
Once that fucking ambulance, fire truck, crane chase thing is going on, that was actually impressive. And then I realized there was no music. It was just sound effects. There was no score in the background. I was like, why does this sound why does this feel weird?
Did you check to see who made that one? Because I don't actually know.
Oh, well, for later.
I'm curious.
But it was just weird because there was no score there. But the second half of the movie's not...
It was no dun 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 dun.
Nothing. It was just the crane, and then ding 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 as it was hitting cars.
I like it though, and
normally that is pretty cool. And then I realized it's lacking a lot of oomph. It's doesn't have any air around it, and it's there's no music.
Yeah.
It's really bad sound effects. I know, obviously I'm a sound guy. A lot of it felt like really bad stock sound effects. So when you were only hearing that, it was just like, wow, that's really like there's a crumbling concrete. It's like, and it's just like, wow, who did you even try to make the sound?
Just ate a candy bar and then
it was really dumb. So I watched Terminator 3 for the first time.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. It's sad.
Did we see 4 together? I feel like that's when we saw it together.
That was a long time ago. Not
long enough. They're making another one.
Right. We'll talk about 3 during our Terminator thing.
All right. So save the Table of Terminator discussion for another time.
Yeah, but just have you know that I saw it and it's it's not very good.
I watched a movie called The Killer Shrews, which I guess we'll talk about.
Yeah, that goes
later. There's a reason I watched that. And no, I haven't watched anything else.
I've been playing a lot of Sleeping Dogs, GTA in Hong Kong.
Right.
I just make it funny. She was sitting down watching me play, and in that game, just like any other game, you have costumes that you can, put on, and you're on apparel. You can choose to dress your character, but they have preset ones, like he has a SWAT uniform that you can unlock that does 50% damage reduction. Well, I wear it all the time because it's good for combat. Not so much. It looks cool too, but in the cutscenes in the game, the costume don't it doesn't show. He's wearing a freaking mask, and it's completely covering his whole face, and a helmet, and it's got shotgun shells and a bandolier. It's ridiculous, right? So in the cutscenes, he's still wearing it. The whole point of the game is you're an undercover cop in the triads. So when you go to hey, go commit this crime, and you show up in a police vehicle wearing a SWAT uniform, and then in the cutscene they're like, hey, are you a cop? And he's like, no, man, I'm not a cop. It's one of those things where the game, that is like icing on the cake of why the game is just so awesome. Things like that make you laugh while playing it. It's great.
Okay, so speaking of, because I watched those movies because you put them on that hard drive. I don't know if anybody cares about this. I'm going to talk about it anyway. So I hooked up I downloaded another media server on my desktop PC to watch it on the PS3. And I hooked up the hard drive to my desktop rather than my laptop. So now it's going directly through the Ethernet cable, I guess, rather than going through the wireless network.
So, and it
works perfect now.
Okay, cool.
Works great. So that works good. So one thing I noticed is that, obviously in addition to whatever's on the external hard drive, I can also watch whatever's on my computer hard drive.
Yeah.
Which is no duh, okay, but I'm still learning this stuff. So I had recorded a bunch of Battlefield footage, a while ago, a million years ago, and I got stuck watching myself for like 45 minutes. I got my 60-inch big screen TV.
That's why I haven't deleted any of that stuff, because it's actually fun to go back and watch some of it.
It's really horrible. I question this whole, this new generation where I'm going to play a game. Do you want to watch me play it? And,
Right.
you go on YouTube and watch them play it. And, like, maybe, though, I shouldn't talk shit because, like, I'll just sit there and watch myself play something.
Right. It's a little bit different when you're watching your own gameplay.
Yeah.
And
it's nice that you put it at, like, 1020 speed and, like, really, like, speed through it.
1020 speed.
Or whatever, like, clicking the fast forward button a couple times. So you don't have to, like, I'm dead, I'm respawning, you actually just, like, run around. But, watching some of my gameplay, and I was pretty good at that game. I dare say I was better than you.
At 3?
Actually, I don't dare say it. I do say it.
At Battlefield 3?
Yeah.
You already know it's not true.
I do know.
You don't know how to fly a jet.
That doesn't mean anything.
You barely know how to fly a helicopter.
Also doesn't mean anything.
I'm also way better than you in a tank.
Doesn't win games. Just doesn't win games the way I get down.
I'm pretty sure me and you in tanks were
way
we'd rape the teams pretty bad.
Yeah, we made a good team.
And me by myself in a tank, I was also... I
armed and disarmed more MCOMs in that game than you did in your time.
I will admit, you somehow arm MCOMs. I don't know how you do it. I mean, I arm MCOMs, but not
play
like
the game. You PTFO.
But I'm not...
That stands for play the fucking objective.
But I'm still better than you at the game. I taught you everything.
I don't have time to play video games anymore. But
no one does.
For like a minute, I got way into fucking Battlefield, which is crazy because I didn't like shooters for the longest time.
That's funny because it's like a super military.
It is.
AR-15.
I did it for you.
Well, no, because I told you like, hey, this is actually a strategic.
I know,
game.
but I fucking like. It's the kind of thing where if somebody tells you, please lose weight, like you do it, like it's a hard thing for you to do. You go to the fucking gym and get all sweaty and do something I don't want to do. When you're like, come on, play Battlefield with me. I really don't want to. I fucking suck at this game. I just like walk around and get shot by people. I have no idea who's killing me.
Play Army with me.
Yeah,
play military
it's exactly
with me.
what it is. Fuck military, fuck Army. I don't want to play the game. But I fucking,
You found
I built a mountain of my own corpses. And eventually got to the top.
You found there was more strategy involved than you thought.
Yeah, because I used to play. I used to play like strategy games and stuff, and like card games and things.
You were playing a lot of Magic the Gathering, and I was telling you like,
Gathering.
It's rock paper scissors, like you this against that, and yeah.
We should say that you and I don't know, if it might matter to somebody. Like we did like do game design for a little bit, so we do have like long conversations about game design, like how well things are balanced and like how good they are.
How would you fix it? How would you make this work?
Yeah, what makes it good and why does it suck? And there was this long period of time
You're not just
where
a 12-year-old going, I fucking hate this game, it's stupid.
And there's a real art form to that. And there was a period in time where I was playing a lot of card games and you were playing Battlefield, and I would have a discussion, and you would have a discussion. We'd be having the same discussion because we'd be talking about balance and talking about, anticipating, like mind games, like bluffing and knowing what the other person's going to do and getting inside their heads and stuff like that. And after playing it long enough, you're right. Like, so I was like watching myself play the video, and like I'm kind of like I'm sitting there with my drink, and I'm like, good job, Ryan. Like, because I'm sitting there watching myself do things like where I see somebody, and then I'll go, I know that person's gonna go this way, so I fake going one way, turn around, go around the other side of the corner, and then I get to see their back and shoot them in the back. Like
you impressed yourself watching yourself play. You're like, I can't believe I thought about that.
Because I'm watching myself play mind games. I'm watching myself play that game, thinking about what the other person's gonna think,
right? And
then trying to anticipate that. That's cool.
Actually,
that's good.
I had a thought today about how like with Fallout 4 being announced and just being like the holy grail, like I thought to myself, Fallout 4 is probably the most anticipated game I've had in my mind for probably the last 2 years.
I didn't even think about it until people started saying that it was going to come out.
But it was the thing that I'm saying, like if there was like a sequel to a game, like what game would you want? I've been waiting for Fallout 4 for the whole time.
Right.
And then I thought to myself, well, actually it was probably a new Battlefield that I enjoy because I didn't like 4.
Yeah.
And I thought, Battlefield 3 was there was issues with that game, but that game was phenomenal. Like so many hours we spent with it and just loved it to death. That was the number 2 behind Fallout.
I still think that if it didn't have so many technical issues at the very beginning, you would have wrote it. You would have wrote it out.
Bad design. I just don't like that game.
Yeah, I hate the maps weren't good too.
The coloring of the soldiers, you can't see them. You can't tell who's who on what team.
Oh well. Hey, Battlefront on the way.
And what sucks is during the Hardline beta, I didn't record it, but I played a couple matches and I ended up getting on a 20 kill streak, more than I've ever. Well, not ever. I don't know about Battlefield, but I went on a shotgun killing spree in that game, and I was like, of course I wasn't recording it. You know, the one time I'm like, I'm not going to record this gameplay because why do I care? And then I get this thing that I would like to have shown you and be like, look at that, tactics.
Yeah. Video games are fun. Don't have time for them anymore. I'll make time for Fallout 4.
Oh, absolutely. I'll have 2 kids by then.
It's
So
funny, you and I already had a conversation where I just said, like, there's no way. Like, I'll get the Game of the Year edition. Like, maybe then I'll have time or whatever. I don't know. I think Fallout 3, I put in, like, 120 hours, something like that, and I can't even fathom how I'm going to do that with a 4th one.
Tell you, just grind bit.
But as soon as
not grind, but just chip away an hour.
Yeah, just little by little. It's more like it's the impenetrability of it that I was imagining in my mind.
Right.
But then as soon as I saw a gameplay trailer for it and just saw the actual mechanics and stuff like that, it was like dipping into a warm bath. Like I looked at that and I was like, I remember that. I remember getting into the mode. Like I remember slipping into that like easy. So it's not really impenetrable, you know. It's just big.
It's been a while since Fallout 3, but I in the interim had played the original Fallout for like 10, 12 hours. And so the VATS sound was still in my mind because I'd been playing that recently, actually.
By the way, we're going to talk about video games sometimes.
Yeah.
We like video games, and
we like video games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're such a niche thing, right?
Yeah, right. Well, we like everything. That's the thing, you know? Like, some people just play games, but I don't know. I feel like we like games. We like movies. Books. I really like comics. You're getting there. Books. Yeah, I mean...
Everything.
Yeah.
Nerd culture,
stuff.
man. Anything that's like...
Not all of it, though.
I know, but what I'm saying, like, anything that's, you know...
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it, but, you know...
I just like good stories. But
we're not going to talk about, you know, 50 First Dates and Adam Sandler's new movie.
Ugh. Let's just move past that. I don't want to...
I don't want to be the other podcast on the internet that's watching the same Adam Sandler movie 52 weeks in a row
amazing,
for a year.
That's got to be pretty great, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a podcast out there. I think they're watching Grown Ups 2 every week for a year, and then podcasting about it every single time.
Yeah.
That's
hats off to you. That's a good idea.
Yep.
I mean, it's terrible. Like, good on you. I wouldn't do that. But that's pretty funny.
Also, Resident Evil Revelations 2, you still haven't finished it?
No.
Good game.
Yeah.
Obviously, raid mode's awesome, but the game itself, the story is really good.
Yeah.
It starts to reveal itself later on, and it gets to the point where like, ooh.
It's probably a good time to be a Resident Evil fan right now because they're probably just going to remake like every game.
You know,
Capcom is going to remake
every game. After showing that they're remaking Zero now, everyone's like, okay, come on, guys. You're obviously making a lot of money. You're getting a lot of sales. You know what's next, right? You're going to do 2.
Yeah.
And if you do 2, you're going to have a lot of money at your disposal. I mean, come on. Do it.
It's kind of gross. We're such in the age of nostalgia and stuff. It's like the movies and stuff like that.
But the game is still good.
I know, but I know. I'm sitting here saying like, yes, I want that.
You know,
but it makes me feel gross.
Before that, they're going to do a Resident Evil 4 remaster.
Yeah, I know, right? I played that game. No joke, probably a dozen times. I've played that game more than any other game in my life.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, games.
I also tried to fix my toilet this week.
You tried and failed.
Well, it looks like the tank is leaking into the bowl slowly. So, like when you go to flush it, the tank isn't as full, so it's not flushing all the way.
Yeah.
So you put some food coloring. Here's a pro tip, plumber tip for you. I'm not a plumber, but I'll just pretend that I am one. You put some food coloring in the tank of your toilet, and if you notice that the bowl starts to get food coloring in it over some time, that means you've got water leaking from the tank into the bowl. So I replaced the gasket seal on the flusher valve assembly, thinking that hopefully that would be it. That's a $6 fix, and it didn't fix it. So I'm disappointed because I don't want to work on it anymore. Because the next step is literally taking the flush valve assembly out and replacing it, which means like taking the whole top of the tank, emptying all the water. Toilets suck. I
tried to go buy a suit, and then I had a panic attack. And I went home.
I would have a panic attack too if I had to buy a suit.
And then I went home and I did a lot of research, and I felt better about it.
Why did you want to buy a suit?
I have a bunch of weddings that are coming up that I got to go to.
Why do you need to go to weddings?
I went to yours. I shouldn't have.
I'm the only one that counts, though. I mean, you're the best man. You have to go.
Everybody's getting fucking married.
Are you even the best man in these weddings?
I'm in one of them, yeah.
Oh.
I'm not the best man, but I'm in one of them's my cousin, the other one's...
Okay, family doesn't count. You have to, I mean, that's...
Okay.
They chose you because you're family, not because they like you.
No, I'm not in that wedding, but I still have to go to it.
Oh. Fuck family.
Yes. But for the rest of humanity, I have to go to weddings.
I mean, I love my family. Like my children and my wife and all that stuff. Just my family, I don't care as much.
I know what you meant. I just don't think anybody else listening to it as well.
So that pretty much... Anything else for the last...
No, not life stuff. I want to talk about what we came here to talk about.
Okay, so...
Yeah, people are like, why are you? We didn't even talk, we didn't preface it or anything. So, let's see. So, we've done... How many videos have we done so far? 3, 4?
1, 2, 3, 4. 4 videos and like 2 podcasts.
Okay.
Which is like 6-part podcasts.
But so with the exception of the video that we did that was like about comic book vocabulary, everything has been very like content focused. Like, here's this thing. Let's talk about this.
Well, like
thing.
here's like a hidden gem or like
a hidden gem or a movie or a comic book. Like, but it's an actual like a title, right? Or a series or a brand or something like that you're talking about. But this video is going to be different. It's more of like a thematic kind of thing. Well, we're hashing it out. This is the Hash It Out podcast. We're going to like figure out what this is.
This is the first episode. There's no one to tell that like, hey, we were going to do an assignment, so join us along. No one's had a chance to.
Right, so we could talk about something that's just, this is the video that we're working on, so everybody's kind of at ground zero.
Yeah, this is our next project that we're going to do. That's actually
and you can actually,
content video, not a podcast.
If you care, I mean, maybe it's not interesting at all, you can actually kind of see, like, this is going to be sort of like, this is almost going to be like brainstorming. Like,
okay, so here's how it was born. We're going to cover sieges, like defend your home siege.
Yeah.
Okay, now how this started was I was watching Aliens again for the umpteenth time. It was on TV, even though I own it, and for some reason I watch it on TV instead of when I want to actually watch the copy that I own. And, it's the scene where they're welding the doors shut and they're trying to make their last stand, whatever. And I thought to myself, it's a lot like an Aliens movie. Or sorry, it's not like a zombie movie. Like, the aliens are basically zombies. And I was like, And I started thinking about it more. I'm like, well, yeah, every time in an Alien movie, be it the first one, the third one, the second one, obviously, you're basically doing the same thing they do in a zombie movie. So aliens are kind of like almost born out of like the zombie lore of like defending your base and whatever. And then I realized, well, the zombie thing on itself is not just zombies. It's the fun is defending the place that you live in or the place you're staying. And then you think about Resident Evil 4. You have to defend the cabin. And I thought about Gears of War, Horde mode. I went, okay, wait a minute. It's not just zombies. It's not just alien. It's the idea of defending a location from a oncoming onslaught wave of enemies or whatever it is, which generally tends to be zombies. So you're going to see a lot more in zombie movies and books and stuff.
Yeah.
But the heart of it's actually the defend your castle.
Yes. And there's reasons for all that stuff.
And it's weird to see it penetrating so many different genres and so many different mediums that it generally gets wrapped up in zombie lore, but it's actually the siege that draws people in,
well,
not the monster. It's
right.
The defending part that's actually really great.
And the zombie thing is still important about it. It doesn't have to, you're right, it doesn't have to be zombie, but like historically there's a reason that zombies are so attached to it, and there's a reason why you still keep saying that. So when you started talking about that, I got really excited because I do think this is like a sub-genre that I think everybody, if they haven't thought about it, they at least subconsciously know that it exists.
That's what I mean. Like, it's one of those things where I don't think people realize that this is actually the draw.
All right, so I'm gonna let's start with this. Let's start talking about the actual subgenre, because I've been talking about this with people at work and stuff like that. I'd be curious to what you have to say about it, because we haven't really talked about it yet.
Right.
So
you never played Gears of War 3, did you?
No, I know you're talking like horde mode and stuff.
Okay, because that's one of the like the better examples of like people would go, oh yeah, probably most people played that and they go, and Resident Evil 4 for that matter, but just the idea of the setting up a base. Not just like, oh, here's your house. Like, everyone has that, like, how would you survive the zombie apocalypse? Like, what would you do in your house? But this is very much like, thrown into another place, resources, you have wood, you have this, like, what would you do in this new location? And horde mode was really cool because you would put defenses down, you would upgrade them, and they would always come to one spot, you know? God, that was a good fucking game.
Well, they're releasing every single fucking one of them.
No, I think it's only the first one.
So what was I going to say? Oh, okay, so siege. So, like, the word siege, right? Like, that's like the central word here. But I think you do have to be more specific. So you could say, like, let's talk about the siege genre. That's a lot to unpack. That's too much. That's too big. And what I mean by that is, like, siege has been around. I mean, it's been around as long as people have been fighting with each other. So you can't really, like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, you could go all the way back to the fucking Iliad and say, like, the Trojan War, was, that's a great big siege thing, Anytime that there was military, anytime there's a fort or a castle or, whatever, an embattlement of some sort of another, you're talking about a siege, right?
It's, like, not interesting to talk about, like, a human opponent, though.
No, so that's why I started thinking about this stuff and actually, like, starting narrowing down the genre. So if you want to talk about siege stuff, like siege as a genre, then you could, because I throw some movies at you and you're like, I don't want to watch all those movies. I'm like, that's not, I didn't throw them at you.
I don't want to watch Lord of the Rings 2 Towers again.
Right, because even though that's a big siege thing, that's not what we're getting at, or at least not what I'm getting at. Anytime it's a military or an army or like trained warriors, basically, like trying to take on other trained warriors, that's not what I'm getting at.
It's just more battle-y war.
I mean, you're right. It's a siege, and a lot of the same things apply, and that's certainly important when you're talking about these things.
The Siege of Rhodes.
Yeah. What? Yes, the Siege of Rhodes. Yes.
Inside joke.
Yeah, inside joke. But okay, so everything revolves around Night of the Living Dead because you're talking about zombies.
Yes. We also want to discuss like how permeated this has become in.
Yeah, because if you
without realizing it, like this has actually been pushed now into every medium that you experience without even realizing that where it came from now and where it has evolved to. It's escaped. It's like, okay, we were going to back to like I Am Legend, right? It's escaped book form. It's escaped movie form. It's escaped it's gone into everything now.
Where I'm coming at it from what I've been researching and conversations I've been having and stuff, I've gotten close to getting like a fairly defined, small, like specific thing if you want to like have it fit within that subgenre. But then you can abstract it to include things like aliens or like horde mode in Gears of War, for example.
I mean, it's a whole video game called Rainbow Six Siege.
You have to separate. Well, see, this is the sliding scale. So if you're going to separate, so what I'm calling it is just the horror siege genre.
Yes.
Because most of the time it gets associated with horror films, and I think that's because of Night of the Living Dead and other things that we're going to talk about. But
that was my point, is that it's not just now relegated to horror movies. It's actually gotten out of that, and also it has taken the basics for what's good in there, and people have gone, well, I want to do that too, but I don't want to make a horror movie or horror whatever, so I can kind of extract some of that good stuff out of there and put it in a different genre.
Right, but what I'm saying is to some extent, once you get back to like horde mode I didn't play it, but you can tell me if I'm wrong, but like horde mode in Gears of War 3, that kind of sounds like you're going right back to Lord of the Rings, Two Towers and stuff like that. No?
No.
It seems like highly trained military dudes with lots of equipment at their disposal, like fending off large armies.
It's just like dumb monsters coming at you. Like it's not like you're not fighting against other humans.
Right.
It's AI, so it's basically monsters coming. So it's like fast little running ones and then big heavy ones. Mm-hmm. You have your variety of monsters like in any game. But what you're doing is trying to defend one point and you're getting waves of enemies. But you can put in placements out to slow them down, stop them, hurt them, while trying to protect this one spot, which it feels a lot like.
Well, I may have to.
It's a losing game because you're constantly trying to repair your defenses after they've hurt it, But you're not playing against humans who are attacking you. They're dumb. They're just drawn to one point.
Okay, I see your point. Well, you can help me amend it a little bit then. So this is what I have so far for what separates what we're going for here from fucking Kingdom of Heaven or Lord of the Rings or whatever, like anything, giant castle sieges and shit like that. So my very first thing right off the bat is like armies versus just normal people.
Yes.
It's typically not trained military professionals. It's just you and me. Okay, so that's one of those things. The other big aspect, we're in here and they're out there. I mean, that's like just a siege thing.
Right.
Like we're trapped in this here and they're out there trying to get in. So the getting in and we're in here and they're out there kind of thing. And this is where maybe I have to amend it a little bit, but one of the words that I used was claustrophobic. You're trapped in smaller, confined spaces.
Yeah, and the second that one defense goes down, you freak the fuck out.
There's a high-pressure scenario.
Call of Duty Zombies is one of
Call of Duty Zombies is another great example.
Which, again, zombies.
It's been, but, like, it's the difference of, like, I'm not defending a square block.
Right.
I'm defending a house, or I am stuck in this room, or I am trapped in this.
Basically, if they break your way in, you don't have anywhere to run to.
Exactly. So there's a lot, There's
no retreat. It's like, uh-oh.
Right. There's no retreat, exactly. And, okay, so far it sounds like I'm doing pretty good. Claustrophobic.
Yeah, congratulate yourself. Good job.
Pat myself in the back, but I don't want the mic to pick it up, right? So claustrophobic. Okay. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, really, anytime you see somebody, like, boarding up a window, you're already in this genre.
Yes.
Like, you are telegraphing the signal that you are becoming part of this genre.
It's like MacGyver.
Yeah. So
you're making do with something that's not meant to be done.
So you brought up aliens, right?
Yes.
And so aliens would. So I was talking about this with somebody while I was trying to define it, and they said, well, what about aliens? Those are military guys. Those are Marines. I said, well, yeah. And I thought about it for a second. I went, but
they've been placed in a spot that's not a regular.
So here's the sliding scale comes in where you can abstract it a little bit more. You can say, okay, yes, the Marines, but this is not the scenario they were preparing for.
Right.
It's not as if you are saying like
they're an attack force.
Yeah. If it was a military scenario, you would have been like, today we're going to defend this castle. Like that's what's going on. That's the plan.
But that castle is probably their home, though.
But that's what I mean. You know what I mean? It's not like everything was. This is more spontaneous. This is more adapting.
Seven Samurai.
Seven Samurai is another. See, Seven Samurai. Yes, if you start abstracting it out. Well, let's not. I want to talk about that.
What year was that made?
1954.
Right?
Yeah.
Same year as the book, as not the book for Seven Samurai.
Yeah. Okay.
Copyright. We were trying to go who was first, and I realized that I think Seven Samurai.
Yeah, but that's just that's defending military stuff. Like that's I see. I almost don't want to include that
partially, but it's 7 guys against an army. They go, we're outnumbered. We have to be smart and start making traps and
right. So yes, it's being resourceful. Let me talk about Aliens before we move on.
They're not boarding up any windows.
Let me finish up Aliens before we move on to Seven Samurai because that's interesting.
Yeah.
So Aliens.
I just thought about that.
This is how I convinced. So I was talking to the guy and he goes, "Oh, what? But they're military guys." And I said, "But don't you remember the scene where they say, okay, this is everything we have. We have this many rifles. We got this many rockets. These are the grenades we have or whatever the fuck."
Right.
That, to me, puts it back into this horror siege territory because it's looking and seeing, these are what I have. It's resource management. It's saying, these are the resources at our disposal. We're not an army that has, we got all these cannonballs and all these things or whatever.
Cannonballs.
Well, I was thinking like the Alamo, But, this is what we have, right?
The Alamo.
Yeah, but again...
That predates all of this.
Yeah, well, fucking, again, you go back to Trojan War, that predates everything.
But that doesn't count, though, we said.
I don't think the Alamo counts either. It's a military versus military thing. There's a whole planned operation about being inside this fortress.
Was it Mexican army? Or
Yeah, well, the Santa Ana, or whatever.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
It's
I was thinking Indians.
No.
Custard?
It's 2 different things.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I kind of confused it for a second there.
Remember the Alamo. Remember it.
I know.
Remember it. You forgot it.
I remember it.
You forgot it.
You know what? It's where they show movies.
Oh, they might open one up in LA. I don't want to get
I've heard about that. Yeah.
I'd be so excited if they did.
Well, we already have ArcLight.
So it sounds like we're actually doing a good job being on the same page. Agree or disagree? So when you say the Alamo, you understand Alamo is not part of this. As the way we're defining this genre, it is not that. It is that is an army versus another army.
Sure.
You don't sound like you agree.
No, I just...
Okay, well, you agree.
I don't know enough about the Alamo.
You agree on it with Aliens, though, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Because the mission wasn't going. It wasn't to go in and defend a compound. It was to.
Well, we've been cut off. We're kind of screwed here. We're in a civilian place.
Right.
We got to defend it.
Right. It is very similar to zombie movies in a lot of ways because of that. And they're in there. We're in here, and they're out there, and they're trying to get in. There is no retreat. I mean, there is a retreat because the movie keeps going. But
right. But they didn't have anywhere to go. They were. That was the safest place they could be.
And they're outnumbered. Okay. Also being outnumbered. Yes, we need to add this to the pile here. A overwhelming force.
Right.
A force that threatens to overwhelm
Which
you.
is why the zombie thing happens, because generally zombies 1-on-1 or 2-on-1 aren't that threatening.
Nobody cares. But there's a whole bunch of them, right? That's what James Cameron did with the Alien. I went to this podcast taping and they did Alien versus Aliens, and one of the number one things they harped on to say Aliens wasn't as good as Alien was that James Cameron just took the Alien and made it so not threatening because you just ran them over, you shot them, they went away or whatever, they just died. But that's kind of true. If you think about that movie, 1-on-1, you can shoot the alien, as long as you don't get the blood on you, it's not that bad. But there's so many of them, you're toast. You can't fight them all. They just keep coming. Okay, so we talked about Aliens. So let's talk about Seven Samurai. You brought that up. So Seven Samurai is definitely considered one of the best siege movies ever made, and one of the greatest movies ever made. We won't do it. Can we do that? That sounds like a good one to do for the future.
We should do
Seven Samurai one day.
It's a 3.5-hour movie, and when you got me to watch it years ago, and not that I was against it, but I was just old black and white. The film's kind of destroyed. I'm like, this will be interesting. I mean, I like martial arts movies. I like Asian cinema. This will be a new one because this is really old. I wasn't into old movies.
Yeah.
That 3.5 hours went by so fast.
Yeah.
I was so disappointed the movie was over.
There's no fat in that movie. It is complete. It's 100% propulsive.
Yep.
Everything happens for a reason. Everything pushes the action forward. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's one of the best action movies.
You just heard that, everybody. You got 2 weeks to watch Seven Samurai and then join us again.
Do you want to do that next?
Maybe.
We'll think about it. Okay. So anyway, Seven Samurai. I'm a little hesitant because it does seem like samurai are soldiers, and they are fending off bandits. So they're not a mindless force coming at them or anything like that. It's thinking, feeling human beings.
Right.
And to me, it is more like defending a fort. Especially because they're going in and planning it. You're right that they have okay, these are the resources we have at our disposal, but they know what they're getting into. They're being hired to defend this village.
Right. I know.
You know what I mean? It's not an off-the-cuff adapt. See, I think adaptation is a big part of it.
But that was a big adaptation.
It is adaptation, but it's a planned adaptation.
They were in a little village with a bunch of people who couldn't defend themselves, and it's okay, we're outnumbered.
Right.
This is not meant to be defended here. what can we figure out? Like, we have this many days till these guys get here, or whatever it was, and then...
I still still throw that more into, like, the Alamo territory. We're outnumbered by this army, but we're going to be smarter. We're going to think of things to do to defend this position that are going to, lead us to victory. I don't include it in this horror. It's so far away from a horror siege. I want to keep it this horror siege genre.
Yes.
And when I say horror siege, it doesn't necessarily have to be horror. It doesn't have to be. It's just that there's so many examples
in the horror genre.
And again, that's because of George Romero, and we'll talk about that. And it does work well with the whole mindless, they're coming after you kind of thing. Because it's when you think of mindless things coming after you, you think of creatures.
Yes.
You don't think of, because people think, right? They're gonna come up with good ways to get you. So like even like Assault on Precinct 13 gets brought up a lot for like siege movies, but that's still like that's a.
Okay, so would you say that one of the funner the draw? Because I'm more into like the draw of what gets people really interested in this, even if they didn't know that's why they might like it.
Yeah.
Is that what actually makes people enjoy this type of thing?
Yeah.
Without knowing is the like. Your mind immediately goes to what would you do in that situation,
right? Which
Assault on Precinct 13 does fit into.
Yeah.
Rainbow Six Siege fits into. Left 4 Dead is a zombie game, but I was thinking Rainbow Six Siege because it's more like they give you so much time before the round starts to put up your emplacements, choose what windows you want to board up with your limited resources. Choose traps. You want to put barbed wire here, and you want to funnel them into one hallway.
Right.
Like that's the kind of stuff that people enjoy. Call of Duty Zombies is like that. You have this much until the next wave starts.
Yeah.
Which do you want? You can't do everything.
Right.
You have to pick and choose how you want to try. Tower defense is almost like a siege.
Yeah. If we're talking about action genres,
I mean, we can talk about the evolution of it.
Yeah.
We can talk about where it's seen, where it came from, how it has changed, and what it's turned into.
But you're talking about what it is specifically about it that makes people like it.
No, I'm more saying that people didn't realize that this is the thing that they're like.
Yeah.
When you thought like, oh, I just enjoy playing Call of Duty. Like, no, you actually like the siege.
You like it. In my opinion, well, first of all, you like it because
Gears of War 3 is a good game. Horde mode is better than the main game.
Right.
That's what I mean. Like, I didn't realize that the draw there is like the thing that keeps you coming back is this like that kind of idea where you want to set traps up and stuff.
It's putting you in a harrowing position where the odds are seemingly stacked against you, and it feels good when you come out on top of that.
Absolutely. And what I'm trying to say is that it's not. You don't realize that's the thing that you're liking because like Resident Evil 4 is a great game overall.
Well, I would argue all the people that are watching Walking Dead and all the people that like zombie stuff in general, they don't understand why they like that genre.
So what I was going to bring up The Walking Dead. You think about the end of season 3, like a couple years ago, when like the governor shows up with a tank.
Yeah. And
they have to defend the prison. That's a siege. They put out traps for. Now that's army versus army. But it was very much like they funneled their opponents. God damn it. I guess that does kind of break it.
Yeah.
But there was also zombies around, right?
Yeah.
They funnel them into like, they try to drive their vehicle, like the Humvee up, and they put spike traps out. So they pop the tires.
Yeah, see, to me that still falls in the kind of military siege genre.
Yes. But the MacGyver part of trying to.
Yeah, but they MacGyver the prison to actually, you don't have to talk with the governor. You could stop short of the zombies.
Right.
Because, okay, so one thing I said is, ironically enough, even though zombie stuff is the most thing associated with this genre, I would argue, we'll talk about it, zombie stuff pretty much created this genre. But when I think about Walking Dead, I'm like, Walking Dead doesn't typically fall into this siege genre, the subgenre very much, because they move around so much.
I know, which is actually kind of annoying.
But with the exception of when they do the prison. Because to me, that is very much falls in that thing. It's taking something and says, that's a defendable position. Oh, that's what other thing I was going to say.
We're also talking about the TV show and not the comic. I mean, granted,
it's the same thing.
There are obviously a lot of similarities, but
I dropped off the show, but from what I saw, it's pretty much the same. There's one more thing I want to add to our list of definitions, which is, I think it's also taking everyday surroundings.
That's what
which I forgot to say.
Which is why I think Walking Dead works in some ways.
So even though a prison is not... It definitely skirts the edge of being everyday surroundings because not everybody just has a prison down the street. Right. It's still something that like you could see driving.
No materials really.
Right.
It's a fucking prison.
It's like even Assault on Precinct 13, like it's a police station. So again, it doesn't skirt. Look, when you watch The Mist, which is another I think a perfect example of this subgenre.
Yeah. Because
it's normal people defending a almost indefensible position. It's a fucking grocery store.
Right.
Right? So
I've seen that mentioned, but I don't really That movie's just like a survival movie.
No, it's they are stuck in that place.
They put the dog food up and stuff, but I mean, there's no.
As shitty as it is, and as shitty as their attempts are, that is what that is.
Right.
There's bad shit on the outside that's trying to get on the inside. They need to try to keep it out. They have to use what's at their disposal, even if it's stupid. Like let's take towels and wrap them around sticks and burn them.
I'm just saying that movie focuses more on the character than it does the siege.
No, but it doesn't. It still fits in the genre.
And the only siege at the time is when like the flying bug comes in and breaks the glass. Almost everything else is just as long as you close and lock the door, we're okay.
As soon as they started stacking up dog food things,
but there's only one time in that entire movie.
It's not as much of that stuff as the other things, but it still fits within that thing.
Yes, they are scared and they are like, I don't put everything against the doors.
Right.
Like, yes.
Especially because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They keep coming up with plans. They try to let's try this or whatever. The reason I bring it up, though, is because that's really super pedestrian, right? That's like there's a grocery store right down the fucking street. But what I was going to say with Walking Dead is a prison's still, it's not a fucking military installation.
Right.
It's not, it's not a James Bond, like, oh, we're in Cairo. You know what I mean? Like, it's
got concrete and it's, heavy. And
right. So even the fact that they're taking that thing and they're turning it into a defensible position instead of using it as something that keeps people in.
Right.
I do think that fits really well within
There's
that.
Also like a barn scene later on.
Yeah. But most of the time they're just roving around.
Yeah, they never actually they defend where they are, but they never actually take the time to make it defendable. It's more or less like, oh, we'll close this door and put up a chair against it, and then oh god, they're here.
Yeah.
But they didn't take the time to hey, let's make it cool where they could. Well, they made a moat. I think they did. There's a church later on. They did a thing with a church where they put spikes outside.
Right.
But that was actually to lure humans in.
I mean, it's just weird and ironic that the most popular zombie thing of all time doesn't actually really fit within this thing that we're talking about.
Right.
Not very often, anyway. Okay.
Not as much as it should.
I mean, I think we've kind of talked about what. Hopefully, this kind of makes sense to people now, what we're kind of defining. I want to talk about the George Romero movies, so that really nails down what we're talking about in terms of what.
Well, more than anything else, the more recent, widespread, critically acclaimed comes from Resident Evil 4.
Okay, so that was one of the early touch points for me when I was talking to you about this stuff.
I was gonna say, but a lot of people, that's probably their first time to see that.
I really would like to. I wish we had more research. I haven't really been thinking about it, but I wonder if there's stuff before that, because that's, to me, in my personal life, that seems like the turning point for that in video games. That seems like the first thing to get that.
But that's the first time
let's talk about it just in case.
But that's the first time someone could, rather than watch it or read it, they got to actually experience it.
That's what I mean. That's the first time I can remember anybody doing that in a video game.
Yeah.
So let's describe it really quick. So
I think. So
that was Resident Evil 4. You said it came out 2001?
I think it's 01.
So one of the earlier, I don't know, it's in the first couple of hours or something like that. I don't remember. But
the first hour has the whole village.
That's different, though. I don't want to talk about that. Let's not confuse things. Let's keep things.
You even said it yourself. Remember when the village, you're in the middle of the village and they all come at you. You're like, oh shit, where do I go?
Yeah.
You go into multiple houses where you then push a bookcase up against the door.
That's true.
And you break out a window,
the first
and then
thing.
you go to the other room where you push another bookcase up against the door, and you try to defend that. You start shooting through the door.
Okay, so you can understand. So in you said 2001.
I think so. Yes.
2001, as somebody who was probably at the height of my zombie interest, played that game, and you're right. So as soon as people started running after you, you ran into a room, and you found out that you could push a bookcase in front of the door.
Sorry, 2005.
Oh, it was way later.
I was way off. But that's
only 10 years ago.
Only 10 years.
There has to be something before this. I'm sure that hopefully if people listen to this, they'll be this and this and this and this other thing that came before it.
If you haven't played Resident Evil 4 by now, I mean, it's on every fucking system under the sun.
But that first, adding that mechanic of pushing a piece of furniture in front of an opening, that was whew, mind blown. That was this game gets it. That's something that I've seen in so many times in these movies. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This zombie siege mentality, this horror siege mentality. Again, there's certain visual motifs. If you start boarding up a window, you start putting furniture in front of doors and things like that, you're immediately within this thing.
But as we talked about, we're going to go to the Romero movies. We've all seen them. I mean, it's cult classic, nerd culture. It's they're huge, right? Even if a lot of people haven't seen anything other than Night of the Living Dead, people do know. And obviously, the Dawn remake came out and was really popular.
Yeah.
This was that mall, that whole thing. This is a chance for you to try to for years and years and years, people have had in their mind, how would I defend my home? What would I use to bar at my windows? Where would I go? What's a good defensible place?
Right.
And then you finally get to do it for the first time ever. You get to actually all the fantasy you've had in your mind.
A little bit, yeah.
You get to finally go, oh fuck yeah!
Or at least feel the
rush.
The rush of shit, they're coming in through the windows, and this one's coming through this door, and
I'm saying, like, it's not a foreign idea to people because at this point we'd seen zombie movies and you had thought about it at least.
Right.
This is just the first time you got to actually taste
you found
it.
out like it. Not only is it fun to talk about in terms of like when you watch the movies and you're like, oh, I would do this or you would do that or whatever. It's fun to play. It's fun to actually do. There's a reason why we're attracted to it on some level when we're watching a movie and then talking about it in terms of like strategy and like I would do this. It's a game. And then as soon as video game makers realized it was a game, now it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Now it's a thing that's like a complete staple.
It's one of the modes you have to have.
Yeah, you have to have
a survival
defense wave-based defense mode thing. Can we talk about the Romero movies?
I'll allow it.
Okay, I'm gonna start with Night of the Living Dead, and we'll move on to Dawn.
I thought we could move backwards.
No, let's do it the other way around. Because
you wanted to start you wanted to trace the backwards route.
I do, but I have to start one. Okay, this is the reason why I want to do this. I think that a lot of people, when they hear what we're talking about, if at this point, if you're nodding your head and you're like, yeah, I understand what you guys are saying, Night of the Living Dead.
Why do I have to listen to this? I already know all this.
Night of the Living Dead is probably what you would give all the credit to. You would say, like, yeah, I know. George Romero created the zombie genre, and he did all that himself. So, if you haven't seen Night of the Living Dead, watch it. We're going to spoil things. I don't care. Like, right? I mean...
So, the assignments of these podcasts, generally, like, the idea when we get to the assignment section, the book club part, is, we're going to spoil it because... Like we watch something, we're going to talk about it in detail. We're not going to.
I mean, I won't talk about like the end of the movie or whatever. I mean, you can. Even if you haven't seen Night of the Living Dead, you probably osmosed some of this.
But at least you're getting a heads up. Like, hey, we're going to talk about this movie. So if you haven't seen it, you don't want to spoil it.
So in a nutshell,
listen.
Night of the Living Dead.
But do listen, please.
Has zombies in it, even though they weren't zombies. George Romero said they were ghouls, but whatever. They were slow-moving, shambling people. Another thing he did in Night of the Living Dead was. If you were bitten by one of these zombies or ghouls or whatever, you turned into one. Yeah. So even though that wasn't played up huge in that first movie, it was still there.
You set the lore.
So really what he's doing is he's saying it's a disease. There is a disease running rampant, and it spreads through people attacking each other, and they eat your flesh. And these people run into a secluded farmhouse, and they're besieged on all sides by zombies.
Besieged
by zombies. And so...
Funnily enough, the game Besiege is not a siege.
Is there a game called Besiege?
Yeah, you basically build a war machine that you have to destroy these little army guys right here.
Right.
And it's like a Minecraft, like you get blocks and you have to build a You've never seen Besiege?
No.
It's total if you enjoy Minecraft type stuff.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I've seen.
You put 4 wheels down, you put a little thing in the middle.
Yeah, I get it.
I just thought it was funny that it's not actually a siege.
Okay, so they go in the farmhouse, and what do? They spend the whole movie boarding up windows and doors and trying to keep the zombies out. There's little things here where they got to try to get to a truck, and it doesn't work. But
it blows up.
It's setting up all the tenets of this genre.
Also, my special tip to you all to help you survive the zombie apocalypse, if you have a 2-story building, the first thing you do is you destroy the stairs.
Right.
You get a ladder, and you live on the second floor, safe as can be.
Yeah, except then you'd be because they didn't want to go into the basement for the same reason. I guess you just jump out the window.
I mean, you still don't want them
to be trapped.
You don't want them in the house. You still try to board up the downstairs and keep them out. But at least
we're already doing it.
At least if you break, I always said I'm going to go to my wife's parents' house because they have 2 stories. I would destroy the staircase and I would just put all the resources upstairs.
I mean, obviously it's gotten more intense now. People have thought about this a lot. They've written books and shit. But Night of the Living Dead, even though
by the way, you hear about the guy in Dallas who shot the police officers and oh god, he had an armored van that he loaded up with guns, and he went to a police station and started shooting at the police station and had explosives. And,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he actually didn't kill anybody. He didn't injure anybody, but I think go look about it. But he bought a van that they were looking on researchers, investigators, or whatever, afterwards, reporters. It's a zombie survival van. It was labeled as a survive the apocalypse, the zombie apocalypse.
Who labeled it? Like
the person on eBay that sold the van.
Jesus Christ.
Or other vans of that type that are on sale on eBay, they're labeled as survive the zombie apocalypse in this van.
I need to write my movie. God damn it, it's so fucking perfect.
Anyways, again, you hear in the news daily there's something related to stuff like this.
Yeah. Anyway, so Night of the Living Dead sort of just crystallized these features, okay? You've got your group of people that are not soldiers or anything. They're just normal folks. You've got your small, cramped, claustrophobic space in your farmhouse. You have your overwhelming force, right? You're outnumbering. You're outnumbered by a force that threatens to overwhelm you. It's a familiar surrounding. It's not like.
Oh, and we didn't even mention Brian Keene.
Why do we didn't even mention Brian Keene?
The zombie books. Those are.
He writes zombie books.
But that's one of those weird ones where we talk about the overwhelming force.
Yeah.
there is that. I remember the scene when they're deep in like a research lab, and in those books, it's like the souls of the dead are able to get back into dead bodies and make the dead bodies reanimate. So they're not zombies; they can actually think and talk and stuff.
Yeah.
But the idea there is like they don't feel pain, right? So you think, oh, it's a zombie, it's slow, it's whatever, but it can punch a wall or a piece of glass, like a window, as hard as it wants. And I remember there's a scene in that book where he's punching, like it's like one of those two-way mirror investigative rooms right out in the police station, right? And he knows they're behind the two-way mirror, and he says like, me, whatever. And he starts punching it, and his fucking hand starts to disintegrate to the point where there's just like a bone, because he doesn't feel the pain. He can just hit as hard as he can, as much as he wants, to the point where he's breaking his hand and muscle and arm apart. But he'll eventually break that fucking window, right?
Well, that's why when you see zombies actually breaking through the boards that you put in windows and stuff like that, you're like, no way. But it's like, no, you're not giving the human body enough credit.
That's what I'm saying. Like, think about it in other ways that they have no, like, I'm going to break this car window, and you punch it. You don't really put your full force in it because you're scared of hurting yourself.
Yeah.
In this case, there is no I'm scared to hurt myself. I'm going to hit it as hard as I can over and over and over again. And so are the other 20 guys next to me.
Right.
Eventually, doors are going to break, and, wood's not going to hold up.
In any case, Night of the Living Dead set up all these basic tenets. It didn't now Dawn of the Dead is really special because it expounds upon them. Like, it really narrows in on that stuff.
And it's a fantasy. It's where would you board up? The fucking mall.
Yeah, and it's exactly one of those scenarios. Like, what would you do? Somebody was like, well, I'll go to the mall. Like that, and that's that scenario. But
Dead Rising.
Oddly
enough, in Dead Rising, there's not much of any defend this spot. I was more thinking about like things also like laying traps. Like, they're going to come in here. I know they're going to break through. So what I'll try to do is put the big propane tank right here and kill as many of them I can, and then I'll funnel them into this way, and I'll try to drop this thing on them.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't play as much in movies, but it does in the games.
Let's talk about this real quick then. What makes the zombie really special, what George Romero got right, what this whole genre gets right, and why it's so appealing for people, and the reason people like it in video games, is because you do not have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's really what it all comes down to.
Right.
You do not have to be Iron Man. You do not have to be Batman.
I'd like to be Iron Man.
But it's something that is appealing because you go, I can imagine myself in that situation and prevailing.
Yes.
I can empower myself by watching this and imagining what I would do. Or you see somebody fuck up and you're like, well, I wouldn't do that. Like, I would exist in this world better than they could.
I would have killed that person because they were going to fuck everything up for me.
Right. It's an amazing sense of empowerment that it gives you, way more so than watching a superhero movie or anything like that.
Absolutely.
So just that out of the way real quick. Like, that is what people like about this
That's
stuff.
what I'm saying. It's the participation even in your mind or in a game and actually participating.
Right.
That's the thing that draws people to this subconsciously, not knowing that it's getting them to think about it in the back of their mind.
It's also an affirming thing for humanity because you're basically saying, like, this is what makes us awesome. Because even though there's so many of you and there's only one of me or a few of us, I am smart enough that I can mitigate those numbers.
Or handy enough, and
Dawn of the Dead really got into that, like way more so than Night of the Living Dead, to like the point where like so much of the plot is about like corralling zombies and like how we're going to get them on this side and what doors do we need to lock and unlock and how do we get them all out, and if we drive the car down this way and if we park the trucks in front. It's why Dawn of the Dead is one of my all-time favorite movies. It's what got me into this like more than anything other.
And again, that goes back to the whole point of this topic, which like it's not just a fun movie, fun characters. It's like, what is it about that movie that makes people love it so much? And it's this.
Yeah.
It's specifically, it's how would you defend a mall?
Yeah.
A huge space with all these things, all these great things in it. I could play with all these toys and wear all these clothes, but how would you keep this place secure?
Right. So I think that George Romero, in addition to getting credit for creating like the zombie apocalypse fantasy, like basically he gets credit for that genre. Like, he did create it. Like, even though zombies came from
Side
Haiti
note, we've met George Romero, and he didn't choose to adopt us as his grandchildren, and we were very disappointed.
Sweet and cute. He was like, "Oh, come visit me if you guys are up in Canada. You can come visit me."
He's great, by the way. He's absolutely awesome. I never thought I'd get to meet him, but he's so great. He's awesome.
We love you, George.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in addition to, again, getting credit for, even though the zombie was technically around before that, our modern version of the zombie is 100% belongs to George Romero, except George Romero was really, really a big fan of a book called I Am Legend.
Yes.
Which you've just read.
Yes.
So, for the first time.
I knew, obviously, there's the Will Smith movie, which I saw previously years ago and didn't like it, much like everybody else.
Yeah.
And I knew it was based on a book, but I never read the book. And then Ryan says, hey, you should probably read this book in anticipation of this. I said, hey, you know what? I've been meaning to for a long time. let me go on Amazon and see if I can order $35 worth of stuff to get free shipping for today to get it delivered tonight. I got same-day shipping, and I read it all in one night.
Yeah, it's
funny story.
Really good book.
So the book that I got is not just I Am Legend. It's a book with also other short stories by Richard Matheson in it.
Right. So you get to the part where you're describing it to me, and I'm like, I haven't read it in a little bit, but it sounds like you're describing the end of the book, and you said you're halfway through. I'm like, did I just never finish that book? Like, what happened?
And so I chose to okay, it's 12:30 at night. I've been reading for 3.5 hours. I need to go to bed. I have to go to work tomorrow. I'll stop here. This seems like a good point.
Yeah.
And then I pick it up at work the next day and I read and I go, okay, there's a story. It's like 2 pages or 3 pages. And I'm like, maybe this is just like a flashback from, because I think like, there's a story previously, but like before.
Yeah.
Okay, this is just some weird story. And then there's a story about a guy who went to a carnival and he's throwing balls in like the floating on the water, the ping pong balls, and you can throw them in exactly every single time. And I went, okay, is he a vampire?
Yeah.
Is that why this story's here? And then the third story was about a girl with a wooden doll that has the soul of a warrior in it that tries to kill her in her apartment. I went, this is not I Am Legend anymore. And then I went to the cover and I realized I went to the table of contents and said, oh, these are other short stories. I had literally read the entire book the first night, and where I chose to leave off was the end of the book. So I read the whole book the first night.
Don't say anything about the end of the book, because I think probably a lot of people haven't actually read it.
Yeah, well, read it before we finish the Siege stuff.
Yeah. We don't need to talk about it.
I love the last line of that book, by the way. I love what it means.
I do want to talk about why the Will Smith movie sucks for that.
Oh, absolutely.
Another podcast, I guess. I don't know. We'll talk about it in the video. I don't know.
Episode 15, why I Am Legend sucks.
Because there's other stuff. It's cool stuff. Like, because you were saying, like, but the production that was going to happen right before that, I'll just say really fast, Ridley Scott was supposed to make this movie.
Oh, God, that would have been amazing.
And the script was like, whoop, it was nothing. Yeah. It was. That's kind of one of the reasons I guess they didn't go around to doing it, was like it would have this high budget thing, and there would have been like an hour with no dialogue, with just no lines. Also, all the vampires would have been practical. They were working with shit. I'm not even pretending. I'm not going to get
Stan
that wrong.
Winston.
Somebody cool, and you can see. I actually emailed you like the screen test of that stuff, and it looked fantastic. It looked just great. It would have been a fucking awesome movie.
It has a lot of potential to still be something that could have been made, even if it's not called I Am Legend.
Yeah,
that's a good story. Like you could literally take a lot of the meat of that and change enough that it's not I Am Legend and still be really good.
Right. It's
one man's desperate attempt to just fucking live, and he's alone.
I will say this without talking about spoilers for the book or getting into a big long conversation about the movie's not good. The fucking movie's called I Am Legend. Doesn't anybody wonder why the movie's called that? There's nothing in the movie to telegraph why it's called I Am Legend.
It's been a long time since I've watched it, so I don't remember.
It's very... Well, you remember the last line?
I remember the book's reason.
Without spoiling, you remember the last line from the book.
Yeah.
You remember why he says that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Thematically, that doesn't exist in Will Smith movie.
Right.
It doesn't exist.
Well, obviously not the way the book does.
Change the ending. Just whatever. Anyway. All right, so I Am Legend.
Good book. It
is a really good book. One of the things that's great about it is that it's pretty much the proto-zombie book in a lot of ways. It's about vampires, but Richard Matheson takes vampires and he says, "I'm going to make it scientific. They're not going to be like supernatural. They're going to. It's a strain of virus, and it spreads to other people, and one person can give it to another person, and so on and so forth. It also makes you kind of dumb, like they makes you slow and kind of shambling. From what
yeah, it's confusing because there's like.
That's different. Don't spoil.
No. It's just like there's dead ones.
Yeah.
And there's ones that are. I don't understand. I actually did not get enough of that to understand what was going on.
Well, I don't want to talk about it without spoiling.
It's not spoiling.
Well, there's different. It's basically they're evolving. That's essentially what it is. You have like a new class of vampire.
Yeah, but there was ones that were like. The idea was they had died and reanimated, and there were some that like...
Yeah, I don't remember what the reason is, but I do remember that the new class of vampire don't give a shit about the...
yeah, I know, the dumber ones.
The dumber ones, yeah.
But, like, he goes into one room and he sees, like, a couple on a bed. One has bite marks and the one doesn't.
Right. It's been a while since I've read it. I guess I should read it again.
So I don't know if it's, like, that one person died and reanimated, or this person was, like a traditional vampire, got their blood sucked, and then I'm a vampire now. Like, there's a distinction between dead ones that have been reanimated and are somehow rotting a bit because they smell bad.
As opposed to like you're alive when you contracted the...
Yeah.
Because it's a bacteria that causes it. I remember that.
And by sandstorms and shit.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, not really. That's just his idea. We don't really know if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, he does his best to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a spoiler because it's actually not... He doesn't...
I mean, the science isn't really like... It's clever, but you don't read too much
but he
into
tries
it.
to like, maybe because of this. So I said something that not necessarily is actually a spoiler because... We don't know that actually was the Roy that was done. But anyways,
So Neville,
it was
right?
a meteorite.
Main character is Neville, right? That's
I
his
want to
name?
say yes.
I think it's Neville.
Yeah, because Ben Cartman goes, Neville, we want to come outside.
He's a dude. He's not a fucking Marine. He's not Van Helsing, okay? He's just a regular dude. A sad guy whose fucking family was killed. And he's alone. And like he hasn't seen any living people.
Right.
And he is besieged by fucking vampires. He's in his house and he's boarded it up and barricaded it like to the best of his possible ability. Because at nighttime, there's fucking, not zombies, vampires outside. They're like, oh, Neville, come out.
Also, let's clarify. There's not like leather-clad BDSM vampires.
No, these are basically zombies.
Yes.
They're essentially zombies.
Some of which are smart enough to talk and think and have anger,
Right.
but they're not.
But they're kind of dumb. They're sort of slow.
They're not listening to techno music. And
Right. No, they're not. They're not what you would think of.
It's not Underworld.
It's not Underworld. No. So George Romero reads this book, and that's his big inspiration for Night of the Living Dead.
Yes.
So Richard Matheson gets a lot of credit here, like for writing this book. So I'm trying to trace back like this genre, like who actually gets like credit for this shit. Because if you look at it, it's like, okay, it's a normal guy. He's just using the resources that he has at his disposal.
Well, like let's draw it out a bit. He boards up the windows.
He
like
boards
you
up
said.
the windows.
He repairs them during the daytime
Yes.
after they like throw rocks at him,
Yes.
and he has to go and fix it and make it sure it's defensible. He gathers resources during the daytime. He goes out and gets food. He goes out and finds supplies.
Right.
He's like, I got to go down to the goddamn Sears to get another saw or whatever it is. Like, it's very much the video game that we wanted to make in our minds was
Right.
the big sprawling world where like you have to go out and yes, you could grow food. But, the first couple of years, you're going to be like, I'm going to go find every can of refried beans that I can and stock up.
Right.
Which is why you want to have a mall or a Walmart. As the place.
So far, it fits the bill. I mean, it's all pretty much there. So you can go back even further. You could, I mean, I know you haven't, but like you could be like, there's like the Day of the Triffids and shit, like the giant walking plants that are roaming the world or whatever. But like, I think that specifically this thing. So Richard Matheson takes vampires, just Bram Stoker, and it goes back like long Gothic tradition or whatever. And I think George Romero gets credit, but I think Richard Matheson gets credit because like he takes this Gothic thing, and he's the first person that says, you know what, the kind of writer that I am, everything that I do, even if it's like crazy, like fantastical and a supernatural or scientific level, I can only write things in such a way that I use my surroundings. And he grew up in suburbia. That's where he lives. He lives in a place where there's track housing, and he lives in a neighborhood.
Yeah, because it takes place basically like
in a house,
not
fucking,
Compton, but
no.
close. He like goes down Compton Boulevard.
Yeah,
I don't say like a Hawthorne kind of area.
Right, but he has just like a single story suburban house.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is the origin. That is, if you have to distill everything, for me anyway, if you distill this all down to its purest form, Richard Matheson says, okay, there's an overwhelming force, it's a fucking hostile world, and you're not in a fucking military base, you're not in a castle, this is your house. This is where you live. It's everything you're used to on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
What would you, knowing your own surroundings, what would you do in this situation?
Right.
And that's what makes Richard Matheson brilliant. It makes George Romero's brilliant also, but like
it also goes back to that thing of like I said, it's your house. He's mentions a couple times where like he thought about moving down the road or like defending, like trying to. He's like, she said like go to the mountains at one point to if I should try to get away and get somewhere or whatever. But he goes, but he can't because this is my house.
Yeah,
like I'm gonna die in this house. I'm not gonna. It's your familiar setting.
Right.
You could probably go somewhere else and find a better place to. He said he wanted to go to a hotel or something like that.
Right.
Which. I didn't quite understand. It was like a joke. Like, I guess a hotel would be defensible because why?
Mm-hmm. At least to be not into the first floor, I guess, if there's multiple floors.
I guess like if you were to able to like clean out a hotel, it's a big place you can kind of defend. It's but again, it's my house. I'm going to stay in my house, even if my house isn't the best place to be. I know it the best, and I'm most comfortable here.
I should probably mention just some like years real quick because like Night of the Living Dead is made in
68, 69?
68. And I Am Legend is written in 1954. Yeah. Now, there's a couple of other things.
Dawn of the Dead is 74?
Oh, I didn't go beyond there because I just wanted to do the 60s stuff. Yeah, it was 70. I mean, Dawn of the Dead was definitely 70s.
Day of the Dead was 85.
Day of the Dead was the 80s. He did one every decade. He missed the 2000s. No, he missed the 90s. He missed the 90s. George Romero missed the 90s. We mean he made a movie every decade except for the 90s.
Yeah. Well, Bruiser.
Well, he made a zombie movie.
Night Riders. I don't know when those were made. But
there are a couple of other things. The Birds, the actual short story.
Oh, yeah, you brought that up.
That was written in 1952. So there's some stuff there still. I don't know if you ever read that story, but basically it's just like They don't know what the fuck's going on outside. Like the world's going to an end, and it's not like the movie. They're like they board up
I've seen the movie,
right? They just board up all the windows. So again, you're in that fucking genre, but it's almost like they're in a fallout shelter. They can't see outside. They just know that the birds are just taking over the world. They're just killing everything, and they listen to the radio. Like all the drama plays out over just what's reported on the radio, and then eventually nothing on the radio. So it's certainly there. Like who knows? Like maybe Mattson, like read that like or something like that. Who's to say? Also, I mentioned Day of the Triffids. It's 28 days later. The opening scene, the whole thing where he's been in the hospital because he had a surgery while everybody else was getting fucked. Straight out of Day of the Triffids.
Everyone's getting fucked in that movie, and he missed out on it all on a coma.
That's crossed. We can talk about that later.
Oh, you've mentioned that'll be a comic thing I want to read at some point.
We'll do that. Day of the Triffids, it's not even like, we ripped that off. Like, it's a straight up homage. Like, Day of the Triffids is actually a really important thing for the zombie genre because the world goes to shit, everybody's gone blind, and you're like, okay.
Oh, wait, I've heard about this.
And everybody's gone blind because they look at a meteor shower, and the radiation from the meteor shower makes everybody blind. The main character was having an eye surgery.
Right.
So he misses it. Everybody's talking about this fucking meteor shower. And then he wakes up one morning, is like, feed me, hello. But, like, everybody's blind. Except for him. It's 28 days later. Like, it's a straight up homage to Day of the Triffids. And so there's definitely some of that in there, but not to the same extent. I'm giving it to Richard Matheson. I think that if you like start like doing the timeline, you got to stop like somewhere and be like, that's really the kernel, you know?
Maybe that's the point where it got really good, but the bird sounds like...
Yeah, I mean, but it's where everything comes together. When you start looking at like again, we kind of define the subgenre, and you look and you see like, does it have everything in the subgenre? Yes, it does. He kind of did it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I obviously.
A couple other quick things because I know we want to wrap up soon, and we'll put this stuff in the video. But I think it's kind of fun to talk about.
So the video will be basically all this in a very concise, much more academic.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say professional, but
I mean, part of the reason we're talking about this is
fact-driven.
To figure out what we were going to say.
Well, like you said, we might do a timeline of like, let's actually go back the years and see in order versus like, I don't know, on the top of my head, what year was this?
I think you can start talking about like, we can spend more time in the video talking about like good examples now and like, good examples since and things like that. So that's for books. On the visual side, so like George Romero was probably watching a lot of movies. So Night of the Living Dead was the end of the 60s.
Yes.
This is one thing that's really interesting. So you go back to the 50s, the like atomic era, right? Monster movies all over the fucking place, right? It's just creatures galore. But in the 60s, not so much. We start looking at like all the really popular horror movies in the 60s are like psychological. It's like Rosemary's Baby, things like that. There's all these monster movies going on in the 50s that he would have just like, there's no way he wasn't watching them. There's two that really stand out from some of the research that I've been doing. One is Killer Shrews, which is fucking awful. Don't watch it. It's really boring, but Mystery Science Theater 3000 does it, so that's probably worth doing that.
That makes sense.
But one thing, you could just watch it on YouTube and watch like the last like 10 minutes because they didn't... So this is one of the things, like claustrophobic place that you have to defend in an area that you would recognize, right, for the genre. Kind of part of that is also like the budgets of horror films, because if you had no fucking money, you had to use this. You had this one set that you had to use for the entire film. So that's the case with Night of the Living Dead for sure. That's also the case with this movie Killer Shrews. So the whole movie almost takes place in like one room. It's really boring. They just keep drinking. They have a bar and they just drink over like the whole fucking movie. But at the very end, these shrews, which are giant mutated rats, and what they did in the movie was they just took dogs, they took whippets, and they fucking draped rugs over them. But what's really cool is that in the like last 10, 15 minutes, they're all breaking into this house that they're in. They're digging under the floorboards and they're breaking through, the walls and the windows and shit. And they're having to move to another room and then go into the backyard and figure out a way to get out. Like they make like this makeshift like armor. They took a boat and turn it upside down or whatever to get through. There's a little bit of Night of the Living Dead going on in there, just a tiny bit. And another one is Fiend Without a Face.
You're gonna say that one.
Fiend Without a Face is kind of awesome, actually.
Because you sent me the thing that was basically it's the Angry Video Game Nerd, but it's not AVG and it's James Rolfe doing Cinemassacre.
Yeah,
and he was talking about that movie, and it made me go. It made me go, I kind of want to watch this movie.
It's a good movie. I like it. It's got a Criterion edition for good reason. It's a pretty cool 50s monster movie.
It was surprising from just the little bits that I saw. Like I was like, that's actually pretty, like the special effects, whatever you want to call it, the practical effects, was impressive for how they had to think about ways to make an invisible brain.
So in the movie, because of the budget, limited by the budget, we're going to make the monster invisible, right? Because that's the best way you could do it. Like just have everybody act like they're getting attacked by them. And there are these brains with little like snail antennas on their heads.
It's like a brainstem, like a spinal cord.
Yeah, the spinal cord is like a tail, and you don't see them really most of the movie. But at the very end, again, at the climactic scene where they probably used all the budget, they had a bunch of really awesome stop motion animation for the monsters, and they're defending a cabin. They're all in a cabin, and they're jumping through windows, and they're coming in here, and they're having to shoot them, and shoot, get that. And it's a total siege. It's a straight up siege of a cabin by monsters. And that was in 1958, and Killer Shrews is in 1959. This is a whole 10 years before.
So to bring this whole full circle back to the very beginning of this podcast, I think the reason why you watched Evil Dead was because I told you it's very much...
Yeah, because it's another cabin. You're not really defending the cabin, but
they do at one point, they're kind of like, things are going on out there, and they try to like kind of...
To some extent, yeah. That's a whole other thing. You can have like a cabin, horror and cabin in the woods. I mean, they made a fucking movie called Cabin in the Woods for this very reason.
That's what I was thinking about for a second there, but they don't...
It's not so much the defense going on, but yeah, that's certainly part of it.
But he definitely does that in Evil Dead, where he starts boarding everything up. Evil Dead 2.
Evil Dead 2, yeah.
And then Evil Dead Remake.
Anyway, I think this stuff's really interesting. I love like breaking down a genre and like seeing like kind of where it comes from. I think that this is a very specific subgenre. I don't know what you call it. I'm just calling it horror siege. That seems to be what other people call it. Even though again, it doesn't have to be horror necessarily. Like Aliens isn't a horror movie; it's more of an action sci-fi movie. But like, I think it fits within the genre.
I was just more fascinated with the idea that I started seeing similarities between movies that were not related, like I said, a zombie movie and Aliens.
Yeah.
Marines versus, people. Oh, well, Peter's a SWAT guy, but regardless, it's people, Flyboy in a mall. And I was like, why are these similar? And like, oh, there's this underlying theme of like, they're going to get you.
Right.
Time, it's only an amount of time, and you tried your best to defend it, this and that. So I said, I wonder where else this goes into other media and things like that, and it turns out it's fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's some of the funnest, best, like, thought-provoking, put yourself in the situation kind of role.
Yeah.
Like you said, I never put myself in what would I do if I was Iron Man. But if I watch Mad Max, I'm like, God damn it, like, what would I be doing?
It's a great facilitator of plot. It's one of the best. Like, besides, like, character arcs and theme and all that kind of stuff, like the actual drama of the film, on just plot, like driving the action forward, it's a fantastic plot device. Like,
it's suspense.
It's suspense, yeah.
Very, very tense.
Because it's a constant sense of problem solving. And if you're a clever writer or filmmaker or video game designer, you will make that stuff interesting.
You have a world of possibilities.
Yeah.
You're not limited very much. I mean...
Right.
Or in a way you actually are limited, but it's fun to work within limitations of, I'm only within one house.
And now you have fucking video games. I don't know what it's called, but they've been talking about it in Giant Bomb.
Signs was also another one.
Well, there's one where it's like you are straight up building fortresses and things like that. Fortnite.
That's actually what I was going to bring up as well. Fortnite's like literally a game based around this idea.
Okay, so is it actually zombies in that game?
It's creatures.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
It's zombies though, right? It's like it's a bunch of them coming to get you.
Yeah.
And so what it is, you spend the time like putting together a fort.
It's kind of like a third-person tower defense.
Okay.
So they would come in. I guess you don't always know where they're coming in from, but like a general direction. So like you can choose to funnel them in because they're trying to destroy a point, and so you have to defend that point, and then you can build walls and ramps and all kinds of stuff to try to like slow them down, and you kill them on the way, put traps in and things like that. But yeah, you're being besieged on, and you have to build with resources a defense.
Yeah. So it's there. It's probably like can't remember the last time I've seen it like in movies. Like it doesn't seem to have,
I was thinking about that for a second.
But like it seems to have transposed itself to video games in a really big way, especially in the last 10 years.
Yeah, because now it's interactive.
Yeah.
Now you actually get to live out the fantasy of what would you do.
Because, it's at the end of the day, it is a game. And if you go back to Siege is war, Siege is battle, battles are games. Like, all that stuff comes back to games. It's just a reason why, video games are so violent. Whatever. Like, it's just, it's what gaming is. Like, it's just part of what it is. Okay. I think we kind of talked that out. We got to make a video now.
Now we have more work to do.
Yeah, it'll be fun, though.
So, yeah, the idea being very much of, let's see how much this has penetrated mass media, trace it back to where it came from, where the best examples lie, what specifics are the things that you see time and time again that are really like the cool part, and, explore the subgenre, I guess.
Yeah. One thing maybe to like carry us out, I was trying to find the quote because Matheson said because I said bingo when I saw this because he was him talking about,
was he like B-62 and you're like bingo?
Yeah. No, because he was talking about like I read Bram Stoker all the time when I was a kid and stuff like that, like gothic fucking horror shit. He said, but then the way I write is I make it familiar. I make it like this is what I recognize. Like this is my suburban house. These are my suburban surroundings. And he's brilliant in that way. But I couldn't find the fucking quote, but I did find this other one that was pretty good where he goes, the leitmotif of all of my work is as follows. The individual, isolated in a threatening world, attempting to survive. And I feel like even he like understood like what he was doing, because I think that stuff like, I mean, we were sitting there defining the genre, but also when you hear that, you're like, yeah, that sounds about right. That's what we're talking about.
Because you have to make the decision, like, do I even want to survive anymore? But in the end, your instinct, no matter how much, like, again, I Am Legend is very much like, I should just let myself die.
Yeah,
I should just walk outside, let him get me. But he always goes, I'm either too stupid that I won't let that happen to myself. Like, I'm too dumb. I'm not smart enough to let myself just die.
Yeah.
But really what it is that human instinct. Like, you cannot let yourself die. Even if you don't care anymore, you'll just keep on going.
Now that you've read I Am Legend, I really hope I can get you to read The Incredible Shrinking Man. And when we talk about like I Am Legend, like, oh, missed opportunity, like somebody could still do a really good fucking Incredible Shrinking Man picture. You know what people don't know about that is they think it's just like a guy.
I don't know. Are you gonna tell me?
Yeah, people think it's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, right? Like, that's what you would think. Like, hearing that title, you would just be like,
again.
He gets just run after by, like, a cat, like, the whole fucking movie.
Yeah.
The whole concept behind it is that, not that he just all the day, one day is small. He keeps shrinking. Every day, he gets smaller. Even to the point where he's getting chased around by a spider. He knows that, like, at the rate he's shrinking, he's going to disappear. He's going to, like, shrink he doesn't know what's going to happen. Like, I'm going to get to, like, the subatomic level. Like, he doesn't understand what's going on. And every day... Like when he's that small, he's like, why the fuck am I doing this? Why am I struggling so hard to survive when I know that within a month I'm going to be gone? Like, I'm literally fighting the inevitable.
Right.
And it's that same, even though it's not zombies, even though it's just like dealing with being in a basement and being that size, the shit that he deals with.
It's a lot of the same psychological things as zombie movies go through. It's the same
exact psychological things, because every day you're like, I have to use every single mental faculty at my disposal and the resources around me to figure out how I'm going to survive. Not be comfortable, not like succeed.
Make a new life out of this.
Not die. That's not die. And that's it.
Like The Road.
Like, I'm going to starve if I don't figure out how to get that cracker that's like all the way across the room.
Like The Road.
Like The Road, yeah.
Like, super fucking depressing.
Yeah. It's a little dark. Matthew's a dark dude, but he made some good stuff, so it's cool.
So,
so
that'll do it for today.
Let's talk about some the next time. What did we get excited about?
So a Seven Samurai, I guess we're going to rewatch Seven Samurai and talk about it.
That's a good way to kick this off, I think. Like, okay, fair warning, disclaimer,
a good joke there.
I am not a fucking film critic. Neither is Kyle, okay? I know that people have written...
Wait, you're not?
No. I mean, I criticize films.
I am. You didn't know that?
My point is that I know that people have wrote fucking books on Seven Samurai, okay? This is going to be our opinions about this movie. And if you haven't watched it, watch it.
I don't think it's going to be opinions. It's going to be like, here's why you should...
like, what's amazing about it.
Yeah, you've seen it
But
too,
I mean, just not from, like, fucking scholar perspective, but just, like, you know... Like, you don't... Let me rephrase. You don't have to be a scholar to enjoy Seven Samurai is what I'm trying to say. Like, everybody should watch this movie. Wouldn't you agree?
Everybody should, but...
Well, maybe not everybody. I don't want to hear your fucking face. I don't want to hear your fucking face. Oh, it's fucking long and black and white. Go fucking kill yourself.
Right, exactly. That's what I mean. Like,
okay,
you're going to hear those people, right? Like,
all right, yeah.
You don't need to be a scholar, but you need to enjoy cinema.
Everybody should watch at least one Akira Kurosawa movie in their life. So you might as well watch Seven Samurai because a lot of people consider it his best.
Did he also do Yojimbo?
Yeah.
Okay, then I've seen more than one then.
Yeah.
And Rashomon and...
Yep.
Sanjuro?
Yep.
Okay, so I've seen 4.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I'm getting there.
Way more than most people.
Yeah.
But if you out there, if you have already seen it or if you hadn't seen anything, just watch Seven Samurai. I don't think it's streaming or anything. So I don't know how you're going to watch. I mean, your library probably has it.
Local library.
Yeah, like that's the kind of movie they would have in a library.
I have the Criterion.
I have the Blu-ray at home.
Yeah, okay. Oh, no. Okay, then I have... Yeah.
I have the Criterion Blu-ray.
I probably got that from you at some point. So, yes, that'll do it for the first episode of this weird thing that we're doing where we like stuff, then we talk about stuff that we like. Yeah. And things we don't like.
We'll get to that too.
I hate a lot of stuff, so... Yes, we are going to talk about Seven Samurai next one. So think of this as an online book club, but just not always books. It's going to be whatever we want to talk about. And I guess we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Do we have an email address? Do we want to do that yet?
No, we don't.
No? We'll set that up later. Okay, stay tuned.
No one's going to listen to this.
I know, but they might.
You know what this is? Maybe 6 months from now when we've been doing this, someone's like, oh, AlphaRookie, that's fucking cool. I like these guys. Let me go back and listen to all their. Let me go back to the first episode.
Well, do you want to I think you called it episode 1 at the beginning. Do you want to retroactively call it episode 0 right now?
I mean, it is episode 0, yeah, in a way.
Because we're gonna get all fucked up when we get to like episode 50. That's gonna be important.
I guess.
Let's call it. I want to call it episode 0.
If we're at episode 50, but it's the same number of people that are listening to this one as 50, then it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
It's just us in here for the 50th time.
All right.
51st time being dumbasses.
I hope somebody listens. I can't wait till we have like an actual questions. That'd be great.
Yeah, that'll be added in once people start listening.
We just make up our own questions.
Yeah, I already answered one email today, right? So
Yeah.
I'll have an email every week.
I guess we're not gonna have a website open up by the time this is. Are you gonna put this up on YouTube?
This is gonna go up on YouTube. Yeah.
Okay. So all right, we're working on a website. Hopefully we can get that done in the next month. Hopefully, in which case we'll be able to like put up these podcasts to actually download.
In addition to links to all our videos.
In addition to links to all our videos and all that stuff. And
would you call them exposés?
Sure.
Or retrospectives? We do a lot of, which we plan to do a lot of.
Call them lessons.
Yeah, history lessons.
Okay,
Yeah.
I feel good about this.
So
next time, Seven Samurai.
Same channel, same. Well, it's the future now. So it's
YouTube.com/AlphaRookie.
Yeah, it's the same URL, same time, next time. Internet.
All right, put a bullet in it.
Whatever that means.